The Treasurer Cameron Dick has delivered his second budget since last year's state election. Let's go to Matt Wordsworth at Parliament House. Matt, Queensland's finances have come back stronger than expected just 6 months ago. Take us through the details.
Thanks, Jess. Yes, it's a multi-billion-dollar turnaround, so there's plenty to talk about. But first, let's look at who are the winners and the losers out of this year's budget. First, the good news. Students in Brisbane's booming outskirts with 10 new schools on the way. Apprentices and trainees with an extension to the payroll tax rebate. Hollywood with $53 million to entice them to shoot here in Queensland. And MPs, they're getting a $41 million renovation to offices and apartments in the parliamentary annex. Losers include motorists behaving badly. New cameras to detect mobile phone use and seatbelt offences are expected to help increase fines revenue 39%. And home buyers, as prices rise and sales boom, Treasury is expecting a 25% increase in transfer duty revenue. But for a look at the budget in just a little bit more detail, here's state political reporter Kate McKenna.
Forging a path out of the pandemic and out of the red. Cameron Dick's second budget revealing the state's COVID bounce back is better than forecast 6 months ago.
The jobs are coming back, the economy is coming back.
The government claims the state is now on track for a surplus in 2024-25.
The first state in Australia to do so.
But reaching that slim $153 million surplus within 4 years hinges on a range of factors, including keeping expenses growth below 2%, something Labor has achieved once in at least the past 14 years.
We've seen a surplus beyond the next election that's been announced today. The only way they're getting there is putting expenses below CPI in the fourth year to get to that alleged surplus.
In December, Queensland's total debt levels were tipped to blow out to almost $130 billion by 2023-24. Today's budget scaled that down to $122.6 billion before hitting a record $127 billion the year after.
Debt is not a dirty word. Speaker, Queensland does not have a debt problem.
Interstate migration is up, along with transfer duty. GST revenue and payroll tax are also expected to grow. That means more money in the state's coffers. Education gets $16.8 billion, including $900 million to build 10 new schools for fast growth areas. These include at Yarrabilba, Ripley, Augustine Heights, Palmview and Springfield. The government's also accelerating building social housing, committing $1.9 billion over 4 years and promising to construct more than 6,000 homes.
It's a drop in the ocean of what's needed.
Brisbane woman Imogen Bunting is underemployed and was first placed on the public housing waitlist more than 2 decades ago.
If they'd been investing consistently, we wouldn't have the problem we have, nor require such a large one.
Others have called the funding a relief.
We're really in the grip of a housing crisis like we haven't seen before, and this money means that some of the initiatives that started through COVID will be able to continue.
This is an important first step, and it is by no means going to solve the crisis. What we need to do is celebrate that this is a new approach.
Health is another focus, with the government touting a $2 billion hospital building fund to meet growth pressures.
This budget has delivered a record funding for healthcare, but we need to look more deeply at the way that healthcare is funded.
There is nothing until after the next election of any tangible amount to fix the health crisis.
The opposition is critical too of the revised valuation of the state's titles registry from $4 billion to almost double that.
Right now, we've got no confidence that valuation is anything but trickery to get the Treasurer out of a jam.
While the government is heralding a return to surplus quicker than even they'd anticipated, it's still 4 years away. And this budget relies on some big assumptions, including that there'll be no prolonged lockdowns and that interstate borders will mostly remain open. Kate McKenna, ABC News, Brisbane.
And I spoke to the Treasurer a short time ago. Treasurer Cameron Dick, thanks very much for your time. Your emergency departments, you've got a problem there. People are waiting too long on stretchers, they're not being treated fast enough. Your health minister concedes there is a problem there. Is there enough money delivered today to fix it?
Well, Matt, we've got a $22.2 billion budget, a record budget for health today. That's a 13% increase in our health budget over 2 years. I'm very confident with the new staff we'll be able to employ, with the new facilities we'll be able to build and the new hospitals that we're going to create, that will help take the pressure off our hard-working health staff across Queensland.
Ambulance ramping fixed?
Well, there's always challenges in the health system in a growing state. We know more people are coming into our public hospitals. We've got 600 people in public hospitals today that really should be in aged care. And so there's a challenge across health systems, not just in Queensland, but around all states and territories. And so partnering with the federal government, make sure they do their fair share as well, is very important to make sure we deliver first-class healthcare to all Australians as well as Queenslanders.
Let's talk about this surplus that you're predicting. Budget forecasts are notoriously unreliable when you're looking that far ahead, 4 years, especially when you've got an election in between. So how confident should we be that you're going to get this surplus of $153 million by June 2025?
Well, the budget we see today is the dividend going back to Queenslanders for their strength and resilience during COVID-19. We're seeing record economic growth in Queensland leading the nation. We're seeing a jobs creation story that beats the rest of our country. And so that's not something that's going to disappear. We're seeing those numbers being bedded in every month now in Queensland, and I'm confident we're going to be the first state that gets back into surplus, and that's very important. We're the first state to project that, and I'm confident we will get there in 24-25.
Let's talk about infrastructure, because the opposition today said you've cut $4 billion out of the capital program. How would you respond to that?
Well, that's not how infrastructure works. We made a $50 billion guarantee to Queenslanders in the election. We delivered that in our first budget last year. We've got a new budget, $52 billion this year. And of course, at the end of this 4-year period, we've got big projects like Cross River Rail almost complete, so we don't continue to fund projects we've already built. So we're going to continue to deliver that infrastructure guarantee, and Queenslanders can be confident. Unlike the LNP that cut their infrastructure budget every single year in government, they can trust us to deliver tens of thousands of infrastructure jobs across the state.